I'm Kimberly McKenzie, the CEO and founder of the Intersection Hub. The purpose of our meeting today is to establish an equitable, diverse, and inclusive group of female leaders who create a vision for how we can build community that lifts, inspires, and supports women to work for social change and social good. Before we start, I'd like to acknowledge that this gathering is being recorded on the traditional land of the Anishinaabe people. We acknowledge that the enduring presence of First Nation, Métis, and Inuit people on this land and are committed to moving forward in the spirit of reconciliation and respect.
I'm Beth Ann Locke.
I'm Jen Love.
Sure. I'm Emma Bokma in my day.
I am Kathy Archer, and
I'm Angela Barty.
I'm Claire Warner.
Okay, so I am Lakeisha Williams.
And 4 years ago, yesterday, I had the mastectomy that finally removed the very last bits of breast cancer from me. And so 4 years ago today, this girl who I was on the hospital ward with, who had taken a picture of me because I didn't have a shred of hair on my head and I looked like a comedian off the English television, took a picture of me and she posted it and she tagged me in it this morning. And it kind of shows how far I've come because I had totally forgotten that anniversary was even this month, let alone this day. So yeah, I'm quite pleased with that.
So what I wish I had known 10, 15, 20 years ago was that my emotional capacity was a strength and not a weakness.
I think as an empath, you light yourself on fire for people and you want to say yes to everything and be everything to everybody. But I think the pandemic has shown me that it's great to have boundaries, but also there'll always be work. So carving out time for personal well-being is really important. And as a mother of two little girls, it's also really important to have time and space to be with them.
By show of hands, would like to identify yourselves as fellow empaths? Yeah, see, that's why we're all here. Like, this is incredible.
I think the thing I wish I knew is that time goes quickly, and actually moments in your life that seem impactful are sometimes because of the high intensity of the moment, but they have low durability for your life. Mm-hmm. And I think that's true. I mean, one of the things I wrote down was these work people will never be there for you. And I think that's, I've lived a lot of places and, none of those people will be at your funeral as part of that thing. The things that endure are your friends in your life. And I think trying to get ahead, which I did. I was a single parent for part of that time, is an important survival instinct, but there's a deeper survival instinct about your soul. I don't know, that sounds extremely crazy, but I think, it's hard to understand how you are worthy in and of yourself, I think, in that youth. And because we're often judged by the amount of money we make, and in nonprofits that's often low. There's something about all that I wish I'd known before. So
I'd like to add on to that a little bit, just because I think that one of the things that I learned from Beth, because Beth is a dear and cherished friend of mine, and one of the things I learned from Beth is the importance of the people that you choose to surround yourself with. Mm-hmm. And that you can either draw the people close to you and ask for help when you need it, and know that if they need help, they'll come to you too. And you can really, honor that. And that takes work. Like, it takes work to do that, because many of us, especially in the nonprofit sector, when we're used to making something out of nothing, making it up as we go along, fly the plane as we build it, all those, lame but true statements, we have this instinct of sort of like, well, I can do it, I'll go it alone, and really, not only is that personally damaging, it's also it doesn't work as well. Like, it actually is less effective. And so I learned from Beth the importance of really being intentional about finding the people that you feel you connect with, remaining connected to those people, and knowing that it's not a burden to reach out and say, hey, I really need some help, but I don't know what I'm doing. And that in fact, that is a like it's a river that constantly is flowing, you know?
The other day, 10 years ago, I was literally just becoming homeless. I was at the beginning of my homeless journey that lasted for 4 years. So what I wish I would have known was to trust myself more, not to rely on everyone else to tell me what to do. Trust my instincts. So there were plenty of times and situations where choices that I made, I literally had a gut feeling that told me otherwise, not to do something. And I went against it, or took advice from someone that it literally did not resonate with my spirit.
Comfort.
I think it's not our female condition. I think women are told, I feel very strongly about this. We are conditioned socially not to trust our instincts for a lot of reasons. But one is because this higher person, this person who, you know, may or may not have a penis, people like that, we have to understand that they might know better. I mean, that could be your parents, it could be insert other trusted individual by society standards. I think women, I feel so strongly about this. I feel like we're taught not to trust our instincts, which are really, you know, speak to us because they're more than gut. They're like part of our soul and what we need speaking to us. I feel really strongly about this.
I really, really appreciate you challenging me on that, because sometimes I will say things without thinking about them. And it is International Women's Day. The theme is choose to challenge. And so I appreciate you voicing that. And you're absolutely right, Beth Ann. Thank you.
I think the other part of our nature, though, as women, is that we are other-centered. Like our natural nature is to care about, how is my child doing?
Yes.
How is my spouse doing? How is my partner doing? How is my girlfriend doing? How is my neighbor doing? Like, we are so naturally concerned about others. We are we-centered. We are relational people. And we don't,
even if it's detrimental to us.
Absolutely.
Lakeisha, can you say that again? I didn't quite hear it.
Even if it's detrimental to us.
Exactly. And so I think that sometimes we have to tell ourselves, think of me first. Like, if that other disagrees with what I feel in my gut, as Lakeisha was saying, then gut comes first, me comes first if there's a conflict. There's nothing wrong with being other-centered until those others are detrimental to our own success and well-being.
What I wish I had known 15 years ago is that we will all make mistakes. And when we do, chances are you're going to forgive yourself before others do. But that should not deter you from moving forward. I feel like sometimes when we make mistakes, we're looking for positive reinforcement from others, you know, in order to give ourselves permission to forgive ourselves. And that can, I think, be very detrimental, because people hold you to a higher standard that they even hold themselves oftentimes. And so when you make a mistake, truly acknowledge that you have, apologize to who you need to apologize to, but then get on with the business of living. And eventually, like someone said, time is the only thing that will give you some sort of recourse and remorse from others.
And I think sometimes when we think about women's achievements, it's something big. And I think that's where we get into trouble, because there are a lot of little things that we do every day. My daughter sent me a text the other day, and her partner sent her a picture of what he had done at work. And he was so proud. He said, I did this today. And she sent a picture back of her daughter and said, I kept this alive today. And I thought, yeah, like, we're raising children. And now in this world of COVID, we're raising children. I don't have kids. I have a dog laying on the floor snoring right now. But we're raising kids in the midst of trying to work and keep our house clean and tidy and all of the rest of the stuff that's going on. Yeah, that's what people believe. But that's not.
I make my bed and that's it.
Yeah. And so I think it's the little achievements. I got up this morning and I showed up in front of Zoom. I, had a shower. I went to that meeting, and even though it didn't go well, I raised my concerns. And yeah, there's some shame, and I'm learning to let it go, but it's those little tiny things that we have to acknowledge that achievement in.
Celebrate women's achievements, raise awareness about women's equality, lobby for accelerated gender parity, and fundraise for female-focused charities.
That was definitely written by a committee, and it's a hot mess.
Okay, so why do you think it's a mess?
Well, I think 2 and 3 are the same thing. raise awareness
Wait,
about women's
but
equality.
please let me know when women are equal, and then we
Yeah.
can raise awareness about that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
it's
I
All right,
zoned
Jen,
in.
Jen, so because the theme is choose challenge, choose to challenge, what is International Women's Day to you? How would you rewrite those bullets?
Well, that's why I jumped on what Kathy said, because I actually think that International Women's Day should be around celebrating women's achievements, large and small. And I think that the, you know, all things flow from that. You know, when we acknowledge and realize and recognize that the women that are working in our organization are contributing just as much or more as the others, then we end up with gender parity and equal pay, because someone's not going to say, oh, that person's going to make more money because of X, Y, and Z. And raising awareness about women's equality. Like, I mean, my grandmother was talking about that when she was advocating for the vote for women in, you know, the suffragette movement. So I just think I think that really International Women's Day for me is about celebrating and recognizing women's achievements. I do like the idea of fundraising for female-focused charities. I think that's a good addition to the International Women's Day general sort of approach, because I think you know, that has been part of it that has sort of been left out of the conversation. So I think that's interesting. But yeah, I'm on team achievements, and I think the other ones, certainly those middle two, feel to me like somebody's committee written jargon that really doesn't mean anything in practice. And
Maybe read it.
That's good. Okay, I'll read it. Emma said, agreed. I think it's the only way we can help the next generation of women break the glass ceiling. If we celebrate women's achievements and stop minimizing ourselves, that would be a great example for them.
And can I say it's not the first woman to do something that some man already did. It's women's contributions, which are generally sometimes the same as men's, but different than men's, because women approach the world differently than men, or people who identify as women. I think it's important to value who women are. I don't know, and our approach, which is not always competitive and stomping people to the ground, although there's some of that.
So first of all, I agree with what everyone has said, but I think also, I just want to share a quick experience and then talk about how I think that can connect to Women's Day. When I was applying for a job, you know, a few years back, I was given a job offer. And when I saw the job offer, I saw the salary, and I showed it to one of my friends, a male friend who'd been in the corporate world for 30 years. He was very senior. And he said, no, ask them for double of what they've offered. If they're offering you this, then chances are the budget is significantly higher, and they're trying to start low and see how far they can push. That was coming from a man. When I showed it to women in my life, they were like, well, no, don't do that. What happens if they, you know, give it to someone else? Just take it. And once you get the job, you can kind of negotiate salary increases as you go. And he was super adamant that no, this is the lowest possible offer they can give you for the role. Ask for double and work your way from there. And I decided to follow his recommendation, and I was able to get 30,000 pounds extra on my salary than I was if I had just accepted it. And this really got me thinking about the question of the pay gap, right? I think there's something to be said about, yes, there is a gender pay gap. We know that, 70 cents to the dollar in most developed countries. But then my question, or where I think that study is lacking, is what percentage of women actually negotiate their salaries on the first offer? And I feel like Women's International Day is not just about, it has to start going beyond celebrating the achievers, because I'm an achiever because really and truly, if I'm going to be very frank, a man pushed me to do what he does. But the women in my life, because of their comfort zones and not wanting to necessarily upset the status quo, even though they're wonderful women as well and very supportive women, just didn't have that in their frame of reference, you know, to be able to do that. And so I think that part of it has to be learning from those who have pushed the bar, who have asked for higher salaries, teaching women that never take the first offer on anything. If they offer you $80,000, ask for 150,000, and then you'll probably end somewhere around 100. But don't be afraid to do that. But the fact that they have offered you the job means that you are the most qualified for the work. And so I think part of it also needs to be a commitment to teaching young women entering the workplace, but also older women who are maybe renegotiating new career paths. When you enter, how do you really value your time? And I see this a lot also with moms who maybe spent their 20s and early 30s being stay-at-home moms, and then feeling like that doesn't count for anything in the workplace. When I got this job as where I was sort of head of Africa for a company, I talked about how my McDonald's experience was relevant to the role that I was going to be getting. And most people would never even bring that up. But there were so many things I learned about productivity and efficiency at McDonald's that I thought could be relevant to the work that I was going to do. I mean, I had other jobs as well, obviously, but I was very comfortable speaking about that connection. And I think that more women who have spent a decade dedicating their work to their families should also be able to find ways to communicate the skill sets, people management, personality management, and so many other skills that come from that that can translate to the workplace. And I think until we do that, we're going to still find that generation after generation, we only have the anomaly of women who are being celebrated at the top because we're still not developing the survival skills that we need to be able to compete in the corporate environment. So I think that also for me is what I'd like to see Women's International Day become.
Of course, obviously, my focus is definitely on celebrating women's achievements. I think that it's not done a lot. And then when it is done, I think it was Beth that was saying it earlier, that it's always magnitude. So it always has to be so just huge as opposed to just, I celebrate the women that I work with every day and that I serve every day. Every little thing that they are doing, every time I'm seeing them every single week that they're coming in, they're showing up. The fact that you're showing up, coming out of your situation, showing up, you know, when the van comes and picks you up from the shelter, getting on the van, you know, making a choice to say, okay, I'm going to show up and go to class every single week. I'm going to show up and make this change, you know, to better my life. That right there is an achievement. And I make it a point to celebrate them. And we talk about that every single time I get a chance to them because we kind of take for granted time. You know, my grandmother always would say, you know, give people their flowers while they're here. So, and I think that's very important when it comes to, we're having these conversations and we're in these spaces and we have the privilege to be in front of each other as women. You know, if you're seeing, you know, a woman around you, whether you know her personally or not, and you're seeing that she's doing something amazing or she's shining, or like even in the clubhouse realm, we see a lot of women sometimes will be in the same rooms together all the time. And you see that one woman that never really speaks and then all of a sudden she gets on stage and starts to talk. That's an achievement because you never know those little, and I don't even like to call them micro achievements, they're just achievements, period. You acknowledging that for another woman is even a big thing for her because that may be the only acknowledgement that she is getting in her life, in her circle sometimes, because we just, as women, we show up, we have a smile on our face, you know, so from the outside looking in and the perception that we give to others, everything is all and well and good. And just to be able to get a hug or to connect or to hear a kind word or hear some kind of validation goes a long way. So I'm definitely passionate about celebrating women in at every level that they are, regardless of what their background is, regardless of what they're involved in. You know, motherhood alone is like an achievement. Like, I'm with you guys. As long as if my children are alive the next day, I've done well. And there's 5 of them here. So no one went to the hospital. There's no cuts. You know, the ambulance or the fire department didn't have to come to the house. We're good. Like, that's a win. I don't like hearing women minimize the things that they're doing. And so they'll do this, oh, just this, or I'm just a mom, or I'm just this. And it's like, no, remove that because that is you're more than just anything, you know, and don't, you know, make yourself feel small, regardless of, even if you don't get the validation. And hopefully that empowers women as we have these kind of conversations. And then each of us spread out and go out and plant that seed into another woman to say, you know, and remind them, no, let me celebrate you. Let me honor you. Let me give you your flowers while, you know, I'm in your presence, because tomorrow's not promised. We see that more now than ever. We may not get the opportunity to tell her again tomorrow or next week, you know, or the next Zoom, you know, so that's my 2 cents on it.
But I really want us to rethink what we consider achievement. It's not, we often talk about professional achievements or the firsts or those kinds of things. And I think, it's funny that now that I'm on this group, even though I've been working now for, back full-time working for about 5 or 6 years, being on this call is reminding me very much of my years when I was a stay-at-home mom. And those years, I had to really change my thought process of valuing the work that I did every day. And so I remember my son was 9 months when I decided to stay at home. And of course, I'm a higher ed professional. I go to meetings, I have agendas, and I had agendas for him. We're going to play with the ball for 30 minutes. We're going to then go outside and run for an hour. We're going to come back in. Like, I had his whole child development scheduled throughout the day. And I remember the first day I was fully at home with him, and he wanted to roll this red ball. I'd set up a plank on the couch, and he was just giggling hysterically, rolling this ball from the top of the plank down to the floor, running after it, chasing it, bringing it back, and doing it over and over again. And after my 30 minutes that I had scheduled, he still wanted to do it. And I'm like, we've got to go on. I've got other things to teach you, and I really had to stop myself and recognize that we have a created sense of achievement, of productivity in the workplace that doesn't necessarily fit what happens at home and with our children. And so I had to adapt myself to, if he's loving this, let him do this. If we were homeschooling, if he loved being outside and looking for bugs and overturning, logs and finding centipedes longer than I had scheduled, I wanted him to do that. He was enjoying learning. And so I want us to, I really hope that we as women reinterpret what we consider achievement. Because when my teenage daughter walks in the house after a date and she scurries up the steps and doesn't say, "Hey, mom," and come and sit and tell me all about it, and I noticed that her fine was not like a happy fine, and I follow her up the stairs and find out, okay, how did it go? And we sit and she just shares, her disappointment. That's achievement. At that moment, connecting with my daughter and hearing what's going on in her heart and being available to her to process those really important moments, that's an achievement that nobody else may ever see. And so I hope that we as women don't define achievement just by our professional actions, because mostly every one of us said we identify as moms, as spouses, as partners. And so I hope that we celebrate achievement also in those different areas.
What it makes me think of is how we are often expected to be everything to everybody all the time. And that can often leave us with the feeling that we are not doing anything well.
When I read those 4 bullet points, I read them and went, oh, so that's what men think we should be doing for International Women's Day. It made me really... the whole concept of it actually makes me really cross, because I think, woohoo, we get 1 day out of 365 days to celebrate all this shit. And actually it's going on day in, day out, in every household, in every family, on every street, in every country. And it's going on against a backdrop of, how many tabs do I have open in my mind about all these other things that I've got to be worrying about and I am responsible for and that I'm doing, as well as, and what does somebody think I should be achieving or not for International Women's Day? And it just made me really cross. And I thought, it's all BS totally. This isn't about achieving, this is about surviving and keeping others alive and trying to stay vaguely sane while you're doing it and finding the right group of people around you to help you do that. Yeah. And that was where I came from.
I just feel like, for me, this is coming around 3 things. One is paid and unpaid achievements, because we tend to only get to value paid achievements. Mm-hmm. I love the ask for everything you want from Emma. Mm-hmm. I think this group could encourage women to ask for everything they want. It kind of reminds me of the Year of Yes book. And I was thinking, comfort, for me, you talked about reach for everything you deserve. So part of that's a mind shift about what we do deserve that we might have internally with ourselves. But I feel like for me, it's always important to have something that moves the needle, thinking of how we can help women get in that mindset to ask for what they deserve, ask for everything we want. I don't know. I feel like this group could have some power around mind shift, but also raising issues. I don't know. I just felt excited about how this was coalescing.
Good, because that's exactly the next thing. My hope and dream for the intersection is you all are part of a creation circle. You don't ever have to come back, but we hope that you do, because I think that there is space for us to have meetings like this in different time zones. I'd like to share the facilitation. I'd like to not be the only one responsible for the facilitation. And I would love the intersection on the calendar to say, and what I've heard is of those 4 topics, it needs to be women, we all need to celebrate our achievements, paid and unpaid work. And my hope is that we can have a very equitable, inclusive, diverse community of strong women who can help each other rise.
Grateful to connect and grateful to be a part of building a different future.
Grateful to connect with such a multicultural group of women, to be able to talk about the issues that matter to us all. And I'm really confident that with us here, we can prefer solutions that will help move the needle forward, like Beth so eloquently said. So thank you guys for having me here and for being here.
So I want to give all of you ladies your roses and celebrate you for even coming in and showing up today and having these kind of conversations. And I'm definitely, honored and to be a part of this collaboration, and definitely look forward to connecting and doing this again with you all.
Kimberly is a longtime and dear friend, and so I was very happy to be part of helping this providing whatever support and help I can to the intersection. And then when I got this invitation to be part of the circle, I just jumped at it because I think that it is very much needed for my own soul and also for others. I have one of the unexpected outcomes from COVID for me is that even though I have the ability to be in touch with as many people as I want to all the time, I really don't want to. I think we're in a bit of a broadcast age right now where there's so much stuff and so much content and so much to respond to, get outraged about, and find our specific little lanes that work for us. And I really think that this is one that is important and valuable. And as much as in some ways in my life, I am cutting out some social media noise because I think it's important for my health and my life. I also think that, this is one of those ones where I want to make sure I have the cup at the ready to be able to listen to this channel and mute others because I think this is one that really matters. And in a world of too much content without a lot of intention, this feels like content with intention, and I'm here for that all day.
Oh, I love you, Jen. I really do.
I love you too, Farplay.
Thank you so much for inviting me to be part of this conversation, and I'm so pleased to meet all of you, and remember to ask for everything you want.
Well, I'm happy to be here. As you know, I like connecting with people, but it's like Jen, there's been, I don't know, I've had to be a little bit of a turtle of late. So yeah, I just want women to grow, and I feel like this is a group that can help them be at their maximum.
Sure. This has really been my pleasure to be a part of this group. Kimberly, thank you for inviting me in the midst of not only ending a challenging 2020 year. It is fantastic to take a moment. We are such achievers in raising money or serving others, engaging our donors and alumni, that it's such a treat to take an opportunity to refresh ourselves. And that's what I feel like this time has been with all of you. It has been a global women's moment of refreshment. Refreshment being encouraged having and sharing positivity, motivation, empowerment, and affirmation. And we need more of that as women to keep going with all the work that we're doing, paid and unpaid. We need to take moments of refreshment. And this has been that for me. So thank you so much. And I wanted to share this quote, and it says, "Let me remind all women that we live longer and better lives when we have sisters we love, not necessarily born in our bloodline or of our race." And I just thank you for sharing in this new community of women who are not of our own bloodline or we don't share the same race, but we share the same womanhood. And thank you, Kimberly, for bringing us all together.